Hey, thanks for tuning into my podcast. This is Big Head on the Block, hosted by me, Tim Henderson, aka Big Head. Welcome back to Big Head on the Block. Today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people don't think about, and that's dynamic responses by police officers who are thrust into a situation at a moment's notice. We're not talking about calls for service where you kind of got an idea what's going on. We're talking about a situation where you're in your car, you're out in public, you're eating a meal, you're doing something, and all of a sudden somebody approaches you in a specific manner to potentially seek your help with a situation that's rapidly occurring, right? Or something that's dynamically occurring. Most people in the community don't understand just how visible an officer is when he's out in public and just what people will come and ask him. You know, people always approach officers when they're eating and stuff, and they want to crack jokes, tell stories, tell about, you know, people they know, or you're friends with such and such, things like that. But on occasion, you're hit with something that requires a quick, rapid response from you, quick processing, and a quick determination on a course of action, right? So let me give you a few examples. I'm not going to get into details with this, but I think it's important for the public to understand, and I'm going to give some guidance to the police officers who are listening also about how to respond to these situations. So not a lot of detail. The substance is going to be just what information the officer has and then how the outcome was reached. The first thing that comes to mind is a situation, and I don't remember if I talked about it on a previous podcast, but it's about 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:15. It's pretty early, not a lot going on. I'm sitting on the side of the 2nd District Precinct facing Highland Road. Within a block of where I'm sitting, I hear multiple shots fired, and I can tell they're right up on me. I hear a loud metal noise in the ground, and because I'm familiar with it, I understood that somebody was approaching in a southbound direction because there's like a manhole cover that makes a big noise, and if you're not familiar with it, it almost sounds like shots are being fired or something that you just can't clearly make out what it is, right? So here's the situation. Bam, bam, bam. Shots fired. A vehicle, it was a green SUV. It was like a 4Runner or something like that. Pulls in front of the precinct and turns. He sees me, and I'm guessing he meant to come into the parking lot and just happened to randomly see me, right? So what he does is he starts hollering. Now, first of all, from a tactical situation, I got to make this place safe, right? I have no idea what he's doing. He could be the one who shot. He could be targeting me on an ambush. I have no idea. What I do is draw from my holster, my weapon, and I point it at him through the windshield, right? I didn't have time to do anything else, but I can tell you this. If he decided he wanted to shoot, he was going to get shot back. No mistake about it. I drew, and I was on him. He saw me draw. He put his hands up. Now, his window was down because he was making a deal with a drug dealer around the corner. And to tell you what happened, he was making a deal with the drug dealer. He tried to drive off without paying. He got the drugs and didn't pay the drug dealer. So the drug dealer popped a few rounds at him. And he's lucky to be alive because one of them went through his seat, right? But I don't know any of this. He's pleading his case to me. And basically, I'm telling him, shut up, right? I don't care. I don't want to hear nothing you have to say. I'm going to make sure that from a tactical standpoint and an officer safety standpoint, I'm safe and secure where I'm at. So I have to, with my weapon on him, I have to draw my I have to keep my weapon engaging him, giving him loud verbal instructions. Now, he's alarmed because he's just been shot at. I don't know this. So I have to keep talking to him and make sure he's processing everything that I'm telling him, which means that I have to be loud. I have to be vocal. I have to give him clear, simple instructions to follow. A lot of times people don't give clear, simple instructions, right? I need you to do this. I need you to keep your hands up as I'm approaching. Do you have a weapon in the car? No, I don't. I was shot at. I'm the victim. I said, I don't care about all that right now. What I care about is making sure that I'm safe and that I don't have to engage you, right? Period. Because it's not like everybody tells police the truth, right? So eventually I come to determine that he doesn't have a weapon in the car. He doesn't have anything to do with the shots being fired other than the fact that they were fired at him, right? He comes clean and tells me what happened. And I'm thinking, you brought all this on yourself behind probably $20, bro. You almost lost your life for a $20 crack rock or some pills, whatever he was buying. I just can't remember. The point of the story is not him. It's what I did and what any other cop would or should do, right? You have to quickly, rapidly assess the situation. You have to make a determination on how to make sure you're safe. I had to escalate to potential lethal force because of the dynamics of everything, the totality of everything. And that's when wisdom, knowledge, and experience comes in. Because if you're a young rookie cop, maybe you have a different response. As a veteran cop at the time, I made sure that every movement was calculated and it was deliberate, right? You do things in little increments. I got the situation calm, safe, officer safety, paramount importance. And then I determined him as a victim, what his story was, right? Eventually, I wrote the case up and we were never able to clear the case as far as my knowledge. It was turned over to the detective division. Now, this all happened within a block and pretty much less than a block of the police department. And I want y'all to know, if you're hearing this, there's a lot of drug dealing activity in close proximity to the police precinct. Always has been, always will be. They're targeted, they're intercepted, they're incarcerated, they're back out. We do the best we can to keep that managed. However, they are close, and this situation was thrust upon me. But because I acted the way that I should have acted and reacted the way I should have reacted, nobody was harmed. Everything was good. It was a peaceful outcome to a chaotic moment. But that's what officers are exposed to, not just me. I'm talking about anybody, everyday America. This happens to some cop multiple times throughout the day across America, right? It just happened that the ones I'm talking about are ones that I had personal experience in. So let's go to the second one. I'm driving down Highland Road, minding my own business, probably going to Chili's. Bro, stupid, if you're listening, that's for you. Probably going to Chili's or something to get a bite to eat, when all of a sudden a car starts honking the horn and a guy starts hanging out the window. He's well dressed, so it's kind of odd. I'm thinking, just initially I'm thinking he's going to tell me about a wreck or something that's going on. Well, he's kind of hectic, and he tells me that somebody just pulled an armed robbery on him at gunpoint. And of course, I have to analyze everything that he says. I have to make a quick decision on a response. I have to disseminate all this information that I'm getting to headquarters, who can disseminate it and get some backup rolling, right? So what happens is this. He says, I just been robbed. There's a black guy down the street. He's got, he gave me a clothing description, and it was LSU attire, although he was not affiliated with LSU. He had like a windbreaker, like a jogging suit type clothing on. So he says the guy pulled a gun on him and threatened to kill him or rob him. I don't remember the exact details. But as I get the information from him, I say, hey, man, I need you to listen to me. All right. You have to be clear when people are under stress situations. You have to be very clear on what you tell them and how you tell them, and don't give them too much information to process. I said, I'm going to drive down there. I'm going to take care of it. I need you to pull into the parking lot. I'm going to have another officer come meet with you. Well, as I'm driving down the street, guess what? I see the guy. Clearly, it's the guy. As I'm approaching, and he's not that far away, as I'm approaching, he's close to the street. He's not acting aggressively or anything, and it almost is to the point where he looks like he's trying to make contact with me. However, I don't know where his mind's at. I see the gun in his pocket. It's clearly visible through the pants that he had on, right? So knowing that potentially this guy pulled a gun on somebody and either attempted to arm rob him or shoot him, whatever the case was, I have to make sure that I'm safe. I have to make sure that everybody on the periphery is safe, because there's a lot of foot traffic in that area. And I want to be very deliberate on what I do. So this is what I did. As I'm approaching him, I draw my weapon. He puts his hands up when I direct him to. I said, hey, man, I need to see your hands. And he obviously knows I'm coming to talk to him, because he's very, I guess the easiest word to say, he's very cooperative, right? He says, puts his hands up. And I said, hey, man, I see you have a gun in your pocket, so this is what I need you to do. I need you to make sure you never put your hand down there and reach for that gun, right? Are we clear? He says, yes, we're clear. I asked him a very specific question, and I needed a specific response to make sure he understood. I didn't need to give him all kind of hectic instructions. I just need to go one by one by one, keep it very simple so he can process and understand my actions, my intentions, and my verbiage was very deliberate to bring this to a peaceful conclusion, right? So he does what I tell him. He keeps his hands up. Now, I had already rolled down my window because if I had to shoot him or engage him in a lethal force encounter, I didn't want the glass to shatter and kind of deflect my bullet. I wanted to shoot in the direction and the bullet go right where it was intended to go, right? Luckily for all of us, that didn't happen. But I had to be prepared from officer presence to lethal force. Everything was in play on the use of force continuum. Everything available to me under the use of force continuum up to lethal force had to be taken into consideration, is the easiest way to put it. I exited my car, and I had to do it in a tactical manner because I knew at some point in time I was going to lose him for about a nano of a second when I got out of my driver's seat and then looked over the top of the car. So I had him back up just a little bit with his hands up. I said, I need you to keep your hands up, and I need you to back up a little bit so I can see your whole body, your torso, and that way I could clearly see if he tried to make a movement for his weapon, to which he did not. So bottom line is, as I got out of the car, I stayed engaged with him over the top of the car now, not through the window, but over the top of the car. I directed him to the front of my car. Now, still, I have no idea what really happened, right? And to make things work, this fool that I told to wait in the parking lot had followed me, and he was sitting there hollering at the guy. I told the guy that I was dealing with, don't listen to him. And I told my backup units, I need somebody to get here quick to help me with this guy. And then the fool that followed me down here who's trying to basically incite this guy, making all these accusations. Haley Stafford, who is now Haley Jefferson, was working. She was working in a different assignment, but she came and she was my first backup there. And Haley, if you listen, I appreciate the backup. I was able to diffuse the situation. I was able to disarm him. Nothing that initially was told to me actually happened. We verified this through the suspect, and then later we verified it through the victim who changed his tune. He was trying to get me to take some type of corrective action that was going to be more intense than what he got from me, I guess. Always remember this, officers and citizens, if you're viewing this. ABC, always be cool. You have got to be cool whenever you're dealing with people in these high-stress situations. You got to be deliberate with what you tell them and what you ask them. You can't have multiple people saying different things. You have to make sure that the instructions are elementary that you're telling them. Take all the other BS out. Nothing else mattered except him not putting his hands in his pocket, right? That's it. That's all that mattered. If he don't put his hands in his pocket, then I can't get shot, right? So he kept his hands up. He did everything I told him. Eventually, the outcome was nothing that the victim was happy about because he basically lied about everything. But that's where wisdom, knowledge, and experience come into play. You can't overreact to a situation because people, they either deliberately lie to you whenever they encounter you, or they stretch the truth because they want a specific response from you, or maybe they just don't remember because everything was happening so fast, right? The guy did have a gun. The gun was taken from him. The guy did display the gun during the course of the encounter, but it was only after the victim, if you will, made threats to kill him. And he said, man, you ain't gonna kill me. I got a gun too. He pulled the gun out. I don't remember if he pointed it at him or not. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but I don't want to lie to you on a podcast. So we'll just say I don't know. But the outcome of this case is something that officers have to be able to maneuver through every day. Now, the next thing I'm going to tell you about, something very mundane. We had Frank's Restaurant on Airline Highway in Baton Rouge. We eating breakfast. I'm with a guy named Dean Guidry, who's my sergeant at the time. Everybody who knows Dean got a kind of a unique personality. Dean's no longer with us. And whenever I was eating with Dean, I always used to pick on him. I used to say, hey, man, we got that bond, Brownsville boys, because we both grew up in Brownsville Elementary. In Brownsville. We went to Brownsville Elementary together. Look, we used to play football in the field and everything. I don't know that Dean really cared that I made that analogy, but I did it just to mess with him, honestly. So as we're eating, a citizen comes up to us and he says, "Hey, officer, there's an apartment complex back here and it's on fire, and it's like right by Frank's." So he tells us that the blaze is pretty good and that nobody, there's no emergency personnel there, so no fire, police, or anything. So Dean and I get up, we leave our breakfast. I don't even remember if we paid or if we told them we'd be back and we'd pay them later. They was always good about taking care of us one way or another. They knew we'd be back the next day or the day after, right? So we respond to the apartment complex, and I'm guessing there's probably about 40 units. I don't know. I just don't remember the exact amount, and I didn't count. So as we get there, Dean and I are in an area that we're not assigned to. So we call the area that works the dispatcher that works this particular area. We tell them what's going on. We tell them we got a fire. We tell them we need fire department, that the blaze is pretty substantial at the time. Well, now Dean and I have to make a command decision, and we determined together that we're going to have to go door to door. A section of the apartment complex that was on fire, but it was spreading pretty fast, right? So we went to the apartments that we could. There was one that was totally engulfed and we couldn't get to it, and we were hoping that nobody was in there, but we didn't have any way to make entry. We knocked on every other door. If people didn't answer the door, we kicked in the door, right? So you got Dean and I kicking in doors, waiting on the fire department to get here. We knock. If somebody comes, we get them out. If they don't, we kick in the door. And look, I know it looks easy on TV when you kick in doors. It's not so easy. We kicked in probably 20 doors each, right? And some of these doors don't push in easy. Eventually, we get everybody evacuated as the fire department arrives. They help us right toward the end, but we pretty much had everybody gone by the time they got there. When the fire department got there, they took control of the situation, and they thanked Dean and I for helping. And what's really funny about this is we were minding our own business, eating breakfast, and we were called upon to take some action in a police capacity, right? We were prepared for the moment. We knew what to do. We knew how to do it. And we made sure that as much as we could, everybody was safe. Now, the funny thing, and this is a side note, this is Paul Harvey, rest of the story. This same fire crew, about 10 years before, I went to a house fire. I actually did an interview with the news afterwards, and they had mentioned that because of my help, some things went well and the lady was saved. And I was really happy and proud of that. They told me they took my name and they said, we're going to, invite you to the ceremony, the yearly ceremony they have, and give you an award. Well, I never got the call, I never got the award. And just so happened, it's about 5 people from the same crew, and I recognize them, even though it had been a long time. As me and Dean were fixing to leave, the same guy walks up to me and said, "Hey, man, I remember you from before. Give me your name and his name, and we're going to make sure y'all get, rewarded or an award or whatever for the action that y'all took to help save these lives." And I said, "I'm still waiting on that call from 10 years ago. Just go back on your database from back then. You still got our name." I wasn't interested, and neither was Dean, in getting an award for that, but I just found it very ironic. And I did tell him on the way out, I said, y'all do your thing, man. He told me they were going to get some kind of award for fire stop or something like that. And look, kudos to the fire department. They came, they did their job. The other side note is this: nobody died in that fire, even the initial apartment that went up in flames. So it was a good day. Dean's no longer with us, like I said early on. And Dean was a good cop, man, and I appreciated the time I got to spend with him growing up and then working for him with the Baton Rouge City Police Department. Now, I'm going to take you through one more event, and this one's going to be monumental. They have an armed robbery occurring right by the precinct. Okay, we in the bottoms, we in the tops, and we in a high crime area in 2nd District. So you always got to be on your game, right? So basically what happened is there's an armed robbery. There's a guy riding away on a bicycle. My lieutenant at the time is inside the precinct minding his own business, doing what lieutenants do, paperwork and other things. Well, the suspect rode past the precinct on the bike with the gun. So as I'm approaching, my lieutenant tells me on the radio, stop and pick me up. And I'm responding to the call. I stop, pop the door open. Jerry Bloom jumps in. We quickly locate the suspect. He's still trying to evade capture, right? So we follow him. We get out. We don't have a long foot chase because he's already tired from pedaling. And although neither one of us are runners, we had enough in us to make it the little short distance we had to. We take him down. Eventually, we find the gun. He threw the gun. Eventually, we found the bike because him and the bike were together when we apprehended him. Found the gun. The case was made. He was placed in jail for the armed robbery. We corroborated things with the witness and everything. So this is just a small example, all right? So the lieutenant didn't have to come out to help, but he still got game in him, right? And look, a good cop, we like the action. If there's something that's dynamically occurring, if it's something that we can get involved in, that's action related, a good cop's gonna do it. A good cop's happy. Look, I'm not happy anybody gets robbed, but I'm happy to be the one who's responding. I'm not happy that anybody is involved in any kind of crisis situation, but I'm happy to be the one that is able to intercede and intercept these bad guys on behalf of the citizens of the community, right? This is just another example of an unscripted event that occurred. And like I said, this happens all day, every day. So cops, my message to you is this. Be ready to process rapidly. ABC, always be cool. Make sure that you don't bring chaos to the scene because chaos never leaves. Be deliberate whenever you're having conversations with people and giving them verbal commands. Don't overburden them with a whole lot of stuff. Hands up, right? That's easy. Hands up. Don't reach in your pocket. Listen to me. Focus on me. Tell them to make eye contact with you. Look at me, man. I see you thinking about running. That's not going to help you. I got officers on every block around here. So focus on me, right? Be intentional and deliberate with everything that you tell these people. Don't overstress them. Don't rise in an escalated. Don't escalate your voice to the point where it is alarming to them because you're going to set them off. Now, if you have to, if they're not listening to you, by all means, you can motherfuck them if you got to. Do whatever you got to do, but don't do it until you have to do it. That's the easiest way to put it. Do it when it has to be done. If you got to motherfuck somebody, bam, get them. But if not, just like this guy on Highland Road with the gun in his pocket, he listened to everything I said. I didn't have to raise my voice, okay? So be smart. Protect yourself. Protect those people out here who expect you to protect them. React to these situations. Use your knowledge, wisdom, experience, like I told you. And if you're a rookie, pay attention to the older guys and what they do. Take their successes and their failures and devise your own system that works for you. Everybody has different personalities in the police world. When Big Head does things, Big Head doesn't always do things like anybody else would. But I tell people, just because I do it don't mean you should do it because you don't have the same rapport with the community. You don't have the same gift of gab, right? I can do things and have a really good outcome when maybe other officers can't because of things that I mentioned earlier, right? And everybody has to have their own style. But just remember this, your style in today's society is scrutinized more than ever. So make sure you're making good decisions. Make sure you know your law. Make sure you know your use of force continuum. Make sure that you know everything that you're allowed to do to keep you safe and everybody else safe. Now, I hope this podcast gives a little insight to the community about the responses that police have, the rapid responses that police have and have to engage in on a daily basis. You never know where or when it's coming. Officers, be ready. Don't panic. Take a deep breath and think, what should I do? Going back to the guy on Highland Road, I could have overreacted and got out and did all kind of hooping and hollering. Put your hands up. Let me see your hands. I could have escalated to that point, but that don't work for me. What works for me is being calculated and deliberate. So officers, don't bring chaos to the scene because it never leaves. Be calm. Be professional. Do your job. Commanders, division commanders, chiefs of police, sheriffs, back your men. Some of these things and some of these situations don't look good on TV. Some of them don't look good on video. You have to make sure that if they followed procedure and the use of force continuum, that you don't allow them to become a political casualty. You have to back your men whenever things look bad, but it was done right. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Big Head on the Block. I'm Tim Henderson, the host. I look forward to dropping another podcast soon. Please give us any comments, likes, dislikes, or any topics y'all would like to discuss. Thank you.